All right, welcome back. This time we're going to take a look inside of the pig's thoracic cavity. So all the heart and lungs and some of the major blood vessels and all that good stuff are going to be in here. So this part, unfortunately, is a little cramped, but we are going to do what we need to do. You might remember when we did the abdominal cut, I went ahead and I made a cut up along the skin here. So what I'm doing right now, you don't have to, but it makes it easier for me to show you, is I peeled back the skin from the ribs on either side. So this is the front of the rib cage. Actually, the easiest place to cut is not right up the center. That's hard on your scissors. What you want to do is go just a little bit to the side and go through what are called the costal cartilages very shallowly. You don't want to dive too deep or you can cut into the heart and lungs. So go just to one side of the medial line up until you start to hit bone. And then I'm going to trim back the diaphragm on either side to give us a little bit more room to maneuver and to see what's going on. There's the diaphragm. If you didn't get a good look before, you can kind of see it on my fingertip there. So diaphragm is kind of a purpley, thick, shiny muscle. And then above the diaphragm, we're going to be able to see in just a second here, once I get my glove changed over. Above the diaphragm, we're going to be able to see the heart and the lungs. And that is, goodness, that is dark because they are both dark colored organs. They're reddish. Hopefully, if I hold everything back, it'll help. So you can see the diaphragm down here. It's like a rubbery, muscly kind of substance. Remember, everything below the diaphragm is our abdominal cavity. Everything above the diaphragm is our thoracic cavity. The main players inside of the thoracic cavity are the heart, which is in the middle, and the lungs to either side. Oh, popular today. Sorry, for those of you watching this later on recording, I am trying to admit your classmates who were here in real life to see me stream this. Okay. Hopefully that's good. We'll see how we do. Okay, where were we? Heart and lungs. So, heart is going to be in the center here, and you'll be able to see, hopefully even a little bit on here, you'll be able to see some of this clearish material that covers the outside of the heart. That is our pericardium, or the membrane that surrounds the heart. We talked about it in foundations, so if you're in that this year, you'll remember pretty clearly. Also, because I don't know if we'll be able to see it easily later, we have the thymus, which is that glandular structure where the white blood cells develop, the T cells especially. That's kind of embedded inside of the pericardium. Now the heart, you're actually going to have an easier time seeing if I work my fingers in here under it. The heart is kind of this dark muscular structure in the center. It's larger than you would expect in something this small. It's pretty big. And the lungs are, this is going to be a little gross, sorry, we're going to have to rip a little. The lungs are off to either side. They're kind of a reddish, purplish color, flappy, triangular structures. What else do I need to find per the, oh, the blood vessels. Okay, the blood vessels are a little tricky. We're going to have to get in and be a little aggressive to see those. And I'm going to have to open more of this throat to get to some of the stuff we're going to need. All right, so if you want to see blood vessels, we're going to need to peel the thymus back out of the way. Goodness gracious, it makes a lot of noise, doesn't it? This is the problem with Zoom. Here we go. So hopefully, maybe if we switch to, there we go. If I put it right under the LEDs, it's a little easier to see. So inside, because I think it was kind of fuzzy, we have heart, left lung on the pig, a little bit of pericardium, right lung are these kind of triangular bits. Diaphragm is this flat purplish muscle down here. The lungs do continue like around the back of the heart. They have lobes. You can also start to see here, notice we've got the bulk of the heart and then you've got this little flappy guy up at the top. This is one of our atria. This is the pig's right atrium. And if we lean it the other way, you can also see the left atrium. If you want to get a good look at the blood vessels, that's difficult but doable. We're going to slide the thymus to one side. You can see the aorta over here tilting off towards the pig's left, forms what's called the aortic arch. So it kind of curves up and around in the pig's upper chest. Oh, you can't see that at all, can you? So if I hold that open and tilt it, maybe we can catch more light. The aorta you can just see is like a skinny tube structure kind of leaned towards the left side of the pig. We have two atria. You can see the two ventricles. See if I can get the vena cava underneath. See, you would think this is the vena cava. That's actually the esophagus, and it's trying to fool you. Give me just a minute. Yeah, okay, cool. What else do I need to find while we're in the neighborhood? The coronary vessels are not hard to see if you're looking at it in person. They're just very small. So if I hold this up and you look at it closely under the light, you can see those little pale lines that go in between the different chambers of the heart. You can kind of see it as I move it around. That white line there is one of our coronary arteries. They help nourish the heart muscle itself. They carry it oxygen. What else do we need to find? Coronary. The abdominal aorta is not actually in the chest. It's in the abdomen, like the name suggests. And it runs like along the spine back here. I don't know that you're going to easily be able to visualize it, but that's a little bit of, I think, our aorta. In the lower body of the pig. Got lungs. Thyroid is easier to find. So let's move up into the throat and take a look at some of these pipes in the respiratory system. We're going to go ahead and take our scalpel up underneath the chin of the fetal pig. You can, I can feel something there. What do we got? Thyroid gland, I think. Let me open it up more and make sure. So sometimes you just have to get in there with your fingers. That's either, no, you know what that is? That's not the thyroid, that's the other, remember the salivary gland I showed you guys on the right side? This is the one on the left. So there's like a big lump here that deceived me. You can kind of see that, maybe. That's the salivary gland on the other side. And if we kind of work the skin back here, the thyroid is gonna be, we've got some muscle lying in the front. Get that out of the way. Or is that our thyroid? That might be, what do we got? Give me a minute while I get in here. It's been a while it's been a year since I did the pig. Let me get oriented. So the first thing you're gonna notice, or that you would notice if these were your fingers, is that you can very much feel where the larynx is. Like almost like a P between your fingertips, like a dried bean or something. It takes up more space than the trachea around it. You can kind of see if you, there's our thyroid. Found it. Thyroid is this kind of mass of grayish tissue on the front of the trachea. So you can remember from what we did in class, the over swollen thyroid is the goiter. Think about where that appeared on those people with the swollen throat. Where you should be looking for thyroid glands on the pig. And then the larynx and the trachea is towards the back. So generally speaking, you've got the, oh, cool. another person. I will wait a minute to let her in. This has too many pauses in it already. Your trachea is going to be in the front. The esophagus will be in the back. So you can kind of see on my fingertips here, maybe, we hope, there are two tubes. There's a front tube, which is stiff, and it's got kind of a bumpy appearance. It's covered in little rings. Those are the rings of the trachea. It's cartilage. It holds it open. If you look behind it, you're going to get some, I think these are blood vessels. It's probably the jugular and the carotid artery and vein. There's also this kind of pinkish reddish tube. So see how I have two tubes on the tip of my finger? The one that's anterior on you, that's ventral on the pig, is the trachea. The one that is closer to the spine is the esophagus. And it's rubbery and muscly. The trachea is firmer and stiffer and has these little rings in it that help keep it open so that your trachea doesn't close up easily, which is what we want because we want the air to be moving in and out effortlessly. Let's see if we can get a good look at the larynx here. I'm going through more gloves. So the larynx is underneath of our thyroid here. You can kind of see it if you work your finger underneath. See how the trachea is narrower and then it gets wider? You can, if you squeeze it, it feels hard. That's that stiff hyaline cartilage that makes up the trachea. And then kind of a fun thing we can do, if we cut the trachea and the larynx loose at the top, you can also kind of see the glottis, epiglottis, and vocal cord. I went just a smidge too low to get the epiglottis. I think I cut it off. Did I? No, I didn't. I'm wrong. See that little structure there? It's the very base of the epiglottis. Can't really see it. Very little. There should be more flap than that, but I cut off the ends. So you can look down the end of the trachea. You can kind of see some of the strong substance of the cartilage. And then if you look behind, there's another tube here. Because I accidentally, I think, got the esophagus as well. Oh, I see. This is half of, that's the esophagus. I cut her esophagus wide open. That's where it was, I think. Gross. Fun. Okay. The trachea, as you get further down, is eventually going to branch into the two bronchi. To see that well, you kind of have to take the heart out and get in behind it. But that trachea essentially is going to V. Let's see if we can get the heart loose and we can take a look behind. So there's the aorta going through, peeling it loose. She is heartless. So now that we can get a little closer to the camera with this, you can see here's our ventral or front side of the heart. You can see the aorta coming off. In the back, you can see where I've severed the vena cava, getting it loose. We have our two atria, our little upper chambers of the heart, and then at the bottom we have our two ventricles, which are the pushing muscles of the heart. Let's see if we can see where the two bronchi split. So, ugh, gross. So we've got here's our trachea coming down. You can see it, hopefully. Yeah, you can see it coming down, and this is just a mess. Well, it splits. It does. It goes one to the right, one to the left. Those are the two bronchi. It's kind of a bloody mess in here. I'm afraid I'm going to make it worse if I open it up too much more. Cut anything else out. You see it on the back? You can't really see it on the back. Dang. Found more esophagus though. A little bit of it down there. All right, I think, yeah, I've found everything that there is to find in the thoracic cavity. So I'll see you guys back in a minute never mind, we're done. We are done. Goodness gracious, that is a lot of pig.